Hi everybody, welcome back to another gaming video. So recently I started taking a look at two of my favorite game systems, the Sega Dreamcast, which I've been following for the last 20 years, and the Playstation Vita. So I took a look and see how much those two systems had a lot of things in common and some really major differences. So switching gears, I'm going to be focusing on the Dreamcast for the next several videos. And part of it is really because for the longest time, going back to when the Dreamcast was alive and well, and during its later years after the system was discontinued and phasing out, there were hopes of games coming out to where that's pretty common for any game system. However, the Dreamcast having such a short lifespan, the hope was that can we get one more game? And so starting off, I thought to myself, there have been a lot of chances for certain games to have arrived on the Dreamcast back when it had an opportunity. I was always curious to see what could we have possibly had the Dreamcast not died the death it had. So the Dreamcast was launched in North America in 1999, in Japan in 98, and it was discontinued as of late 2000. And then finally we started seeing the trickle of releases into 2001. However, in Japan we still saw additional releases all the way up until 2007, which is pretty amazing considering that Sega decided to become a third-party publisher when they knew that the hardware was no longer for them, which is a shame, but they kind of made that based upon poor decisions that preceded them before the Dreamcast. So I'm taking a look at games that could have happened on the Dreamcast. So there's several episodes I have. In this first episode, we'll take a look and see at the Sega's Naomi hardware. So for those of you that are not aware, Sega is probably the biggest manufacturer of arcade systems. Reason being is based upon its origins. So if you take a look at Sega, its original name was Service Games. The goal of it was to provide entertainment for military service member with games, hence the name Sega. So they built these, game machines out, which eventually became the production of arcade systems. And taking a look at arcade systems, the Sega Naomi hardware was very versatile as far as what it could do. It had various iterations and sequels. And so we'll take a look at some of the games that came out on that system that could have had a chance to be on the Dreamcast. And the reason why I say could have had a chance was because the Sega Naomi hardware and the Dreamcast hardware are very similar. They're essentially siblings. The only difference essentially between the two systems was that Naomi hardware had a little bit more memory than the Dreamcast. So it's not too far-fetched to imagine that Naomi games could have been on the Dreamcast because a lot of the Dreamcast games that Sega put forth, and additionally other publishers, were ports of the Naomi arcade games. So let's take a look at a few videos of games that could have come out, and we'll see as far as could have been something that you could imagine playing once upon a time on the Dreamcast. So let's see. Alright, so the first game in this series is a game developed by Subtle Style. It came out in 2008. This game is known as Akatsuki Denko Senki. That's from what I can find for the name. I may have butchered it. I apologize for those if I may have offended anybody. But take a look at the game. It looks like a pretty great 2D fighter. Now, we had several of these great 2D fighters on the Dreamcast from SNK and Capcom. You look at the gameplay, it seems to have more of an SNK style as far as graphics go, but more of a Capcom sensibility when it comes to the fighting action. I really dig it. It's really too bad that we haven't seen this game. From taking a look from what I've seen, this game series has not made it to a console release. It's had some PC releases. Actually, Alright, this next game is by Hitmaker. For those of you old school Dreamcast fans, probably remember Hitmaker because it's a Sega definitely development house. And so one game I remember reading back in the official Dreamcast magazine, can't remember which issue it was. If I find it, I might post it down in the comments. But this was a game called Kraken DJ. So you also see later there's a sequel called Kraken DJ 2, but taking a look at it, it looks like it has kind of funky art style that we saw in games like Jekrang Radio. But then it has like this rhythm action that we didn't really see a whole lot of back then. When we think of rhythm games back in the late 90s, 2000s. It was more in line with things like Dance Dance Revolution. There was Beatmania as well. However, Kraken DJ, it's a little different. Actually, it's more of a trendsetter. If take a look at the arcade cabinet, it looked like it was something similar to DJ Hero, which we saw last gen on the PS3 and Xbox 360. So I guess based upon the success of the series, they made a sequel, Kraken DJ 2, which I'm assuming probably adds more soundtracks, perhaps more gameplay modes, but definitely as far as a game that definitely did not make it to the Dreamcast or any future generations. However, supposedly there was something I had read that may have come out on the PlayStation 1. If any of you have seen this come out on PlayStation 1, please comment on that, because I would love to know if that's the case or not. So this next game is yet another Sega-made game, and taking a look at it, I could let you try to gather and guess what kind of game it is. If those of you that thought maybe something on line of something like a sequel to Die Hard Arcade, also Dynamite Cop 2, which we saw on the Dreamcast, we saw Die Hard Arcade on the Saturn, but yes, this is part of the Dynamite Deca series. This one's known as Asian Dynamite. Additionally, there's another name for it, as it being called Dynamite Deca EX. So what the EX stands for, not entirely sure, but definitely, I'm not sure about you all, but I definitely enjoyed playing the Die Hard Arcade game on Sega Saturn and Dynamite Cop on the Sega Dreamcast. I thought it was a lot of fun, great arcade action. Maybe not the best and tightest controls, in comparison to what we see in terms of, hack and slash gameplay in the current generation. But, taking a look at the graphics, this is something that definitely could have come out. This game was developed by Sega in 2006, and we know that by this time, Sega had moved on from publishing, for the Dreamcast. So we did see, I think the last release was Puyo Puyo Fever, but that was well before 2006. During this time, as far as, late releases on the Dreamcast, it was primarily, some visual novels. Alright, seeing this splash screen, Triangle Service, if you see this, and you definitely know these are folks who are all about the shooters, the shoot 'em ups. So we definitely saw one of their releases on the Dreamcast. This is the sequel to Tri-Zeal, which we definitely did see. This is X-Zeal. So this game came out in arcades back in 2007. So the last Dreamcast release was actually yet another shoot 'em up, Crows by Milestone, back March 8th, 2007. It came out in Japan. So with this game having just come out in arcades in 2007, the exact date I'm not too certain. It's probably the reason why we didn't get to see it. Had it come out a year beforehand, we may have seen X-Seal, but unfortunately, time wasn't so kind. It is available on PC. Dagica is the publisher. The next offering that we're going to take a look at is a game that came out in 2008 by Milestone. Just talked about Milestone a short period ago. And this was another shoot 'em up. This was Illmatic Envelope, also known as Il Velo. So as far as the gameplay goes, this is something that we ended up seeing, I believe, on the Wii. It came out as part of the Milestone collection in Japan. And so this is definitely something that's definitely right up the alley that would have been perfect for the Dreamcast. Unfortunately, as we know, March 8, 2007, when Kuros came out by Milestone as well on the Dreamcast, that was the last release. Sega wanted to go ahead and, put the end to the series as far as publishing Dreamcast games. It's unfortunate that this game did not make it out in time. Because take a look at it, listen to the music, watch the gameplay. This is something that it would have been a pre-order purchase for me day one. Absolutely. It definitely looks like a whole lot of fun. So, as I said beforehand, if you like the style of this gameplay, it definitely is available. I'm not sure as far as from a digital storefront purchase, but definitely I believe it definitely came out physically. However, it may be available in some storefronts. You'll need to take a look to see, but definitely I'm pretty sure this came out on the Nintendo Wii. But yeah, take a look at it. Such vibrant colors, great music. I mean, this is definitely would have been a great experience to have on the arcade. It would have been right at home with all the great shoot 'em ups that came out on the Sega Dreamcast. Don't you think? Alright, this next game is by G-Rev/Yulti. It came out in 2008. Probably going to butcher name, but it's Mamoru-kun wa Nowarate Shimata. So take a look at it. It looks like a nice vertical shoot 'em up, cute 'em up. Like some of these other games, this game came out on the Sega Naomi hardware, cartridge format, back in 2008. Alright, this next game is an interesting one. Mazen, it's Fist of the Blade. So this is a game that was developed by Namco. And it was pretty interesting. This came out in 2002. And as you can take a look at it, you have to swing your sword in the arcade. Now, I know there wasn't a sword controller that came on the Dreamcast, but if you look at it, essentially the peripheral works similar to what we saw later on the Nintendo Wii, as far as being able to appreciate the positioning of the weapon. So, back in this day, it was not uncommon for us to see really neat, peripherals. We had, the guns for House of Dead 2, as well as Death Crimson OX, to name a few. We saw Virtual Cop 2 that used the gun peripheral. We had flight sticks. It was not uncommon to see additional peripherals, arcade sticks for the fighting games, and shoot 'em ups as well. So this was a hack and slash where they could have simply made a controller. We had Sama de Amigo having maracas. We could have easily had a katana blade for this game. This would have been right at home. It would have been right within the same time that one would have expected to be viable on the Dreamcast, 2002. So this next game, Melty Blood, Actress Again, is part of the long-running Melty Blood series by Type Moon. Now, this release within the series came out in 2008, so it would have been outside, about a year out since we saw Kuro's. But this is yet another great 2D fighter. So as I said beforehand, we were very fortunate on the Dreamcast to have some really awesome 2D fighters. And this is a game series where it wasn't a one and done. This has been going on for quite some time as far as great releases by Type Moon with the Melty Blood series. So it looks like it has some great graphics and definitely has some good gameplay. Series tend to die if the gameplay is not good, so the fact that they've had ongoing releases in this series just shows that they keep honing their craft and keeps getting better and better. I think this would have been right at home. It's really too bad that we didn't get to see it. So, but definitely, this is something that the Dreamcast could have totally been able to manage without any problems whatsoever, just because. Alright, this next game came out by Sega in 1999, Jambo Safari. So this is an interesting issue that we saw several times, and I'll talk about it later in one of the later episodes, is that here's an arcade game that came out during the time period of the Dreamcast that could have come out on the Dreamcast as it was built on Naomi hardware. However, we did not see it come out on the Dreamcast. However, we did see it come out later. So those of you who may not be aware, Jambo Safari was able to find life on home console on Nintendo Wii. So take a look at the game. It definitely looks like something that we didn't really see anything like it beforehand. I mean, I can't think of any kind of Safari type game that's more of arcade style in this style of play. Now, we definitely have seen other things like Deer Hunter style games, hunting games, where it's an arcade game where you're trying to hunt, but this is, you're on safari. You're riding around in your Jeep, you're taking a look at the lay of the land, and this is a great opportunity for you to go ahead and do this. Now, it could have been possible that, they were afraid of complaints by PETA. I don't know, but we had Sega Bass Fishing, so we were catching fish, and same thing with Sega Marine Fishing, so I don't really know. Alright, here's yet another game that is of really interesting history, because as you saw in the splash, we saw Namco, and this was definitely a Naomi game. This is a arcade shooter similar in the same vein as Virtual Cop, House of the Dead, that sort of style. However, it has more of a ninja aesthetic to it, in this game being Ninja Assault. So Sega helped make this game. It was WoW Entertainment and Namco worked together to make this game in 2001. And so what's interesting of all is that 2001, I mean, definitely the Dreamcast was still viable as far as that time. Now, granted, though, 2001 was when essentially they were transitioning through. It was late 2000 when Sega decided to pull the plug on the Dreamcast. However, we're still seeing games, set for 2002. We saw late releases games like NFL 2K2, NBA 2K2 that would have started development. Since this game was in development, for the arcades with Namco and Sega working together and coming out in 2001, they could have easily been, working together to make a Dreamcast version of Ninja Assault. It's just really unfortunate that never came to be, just because this is a great style of game. The peripheral would have already come out by that time, because we already had House Dead 2, we had Virtual Cop 2 that we easily saw on the Smash Pack in the West. We had Death Crimson OX, and for those of you who decided to import it, there was Death Crimson 2, which came out exclusively in Japan. So, who does not like arcade shooters? I totally love them. I would have totally purchased this game and had it to my collection. It's unfortunate. Alright, so this next game is similar to some other games we've talked about in terms that it is unfortunate that it didn't come out on the Dreamcast due to the fact that it's a product of its time. By that, what I mean is that the game came out after Sega was already done making games for the Dreamcast. They weren't going to press any more Dreamcast games. This game's a follow-up by Milestone. This is Radio Allergy Noah, also known as Radurgy Noah. So if you've played the game, its predecessor beforehand, it's a very bright, colorful shoot-'em-up. So definitely has a fun, interesting, upbeat art style. It's not like the smooth, polished look like you'd expect from something like a Gradius and such, or Border Down. I think Border Down was a Ikaruga gorgeous shoot 'em ups. This one has more of a cartoony look to it. So for some people, they might find this off-putting. I know definitely back when this game, the predecessor came out 15 years ago, I was definitely not as interested in that art style. I like my games looking more, modern looking and not as playful and colorful and cartoon-like. However, I kind of wish I would have picked up, because the gameplay wise is something that it was a good game, and certainly this game carries on that. So it's unfortunate it didn't come out on Dreamcast. It did eventually come out later on Xbox 360 and other consoles as well. So this next game takes a page out of the old Namco playbook of making a game for the arcades on the Sega Naomi hardware, but not bringing it out to Dreamcast, even though it would have been within that time span. And this game is definitely probably one of the most successful games in terms of Resident Evil Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. And this is actually Gun Survivor 2 Biohazard Code Veronica. And it definitely takes its cues from the Code Veronica game, but decides to make it into a shooter similar to games like House of Dead, Virtual Cop, and the like. And this game came on the arcades in 2002, and it's just really unfortunate that, just like the other games we've seen come out, that they could have come out on the Dreamcast had they decided to put forth the effort, but unfortunately they didn't. Now, this next game looks like a pretty fun game that probably could have come out by Sega as a budget-style game. It's a four-player, battle game known as Ring Out 4x4. As you can see, Ring Out, its name says it all. It could have been budget. So Sega made Sega Strike Fighter back in 2000. It's an arcade-style air combat game that I think the reason why Sega did not bring this out to the Dreamcast is probably because they didn't want to compete with their own releases and other games at the time. In the short lifespan of the Dreamcast, we saw Aero Wings 2, as well as Air Force Delta. So we had 3 games coming out all in a short period of time. So I think that's probably why we did not see this on Dreamcast. But I would have loved to have seen this. This would have been a lot of fun and would have been right at home on the Sega Dreamcast. It's too bad. So last but certainly not least for this series, it's a game by Sega, and this is a beat-em up that came out in 2000. It's a 3D fighter known as Slash Out. So for those of you not familiar, I guess supposedly it's a bit of a series. So its sequel, Spike Out, came out, and unfortunately never made it to home console as far as that Slash Out series until we actually saw on the original Xbox Spike Out come out, and it was an enhanced version. So this game came out in 2000 and it's been right at home. Take a look at the graphics, some of the gameplay. I don't know about you, but it looks pretty reminiscent of Capcom's Power Stone games. So, not necessarily as perhaps tight as far as the combat goes, but as far as some of those hack and slash sensibilities. Taking a look as far as a closed arena set, it definitely looks like it would have been perfect. So, what'd you think? I gotta say, those first 16 games would have been great to play as a home experience. It's really too bad that we never got to see it. Granted, though, there are other opportunities to play some of these games. Some of them got life on other game systems, and some of them never have. So, essentially, emulation on PC might be the only experience that have that, gaming opportunity in the home. It's unfortunate just because it would have been right at home with Sega's collection of great games on Dreamcast that would have been perfect from going from the arcades into our own living rooms. So if you like what you saw, please go ahead and subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and go ahead and leave a comment. I'm always looking to try and make better videos, and I'm really new at this. I'm trying to become a better video maker. So I do this just for the fun of it, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself, because I know I enjoyed myself as far as all the research I got to do and learn things about the Sega Naomi arcade system as well as the Dreamcast. So I look forward to seeing you back with another video, and it'll be definitely based upon Dreamcast games that could have been. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next time. Bye.